So, let's talk about Storm Leonardo, a single massive weather event that just slammed into Morocco. But this isn't your typical story of destruction. It's actually the story of a wild paradox, one that brought a nation to its knees, while at the very same time delivering a strange kind of salvation.
And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, look at this number, 108,000. That's how many people were forced to flee their homes because of the rising floodwaters. I mean, this wasn't just a bad storm. This was a full-blown humanitarian crisis happening in real time.
And the thing is, the country knew something big was on its way. As Storm Leonardo was building up strength out over the Atlantic, Morocco's top meteorology agencies started putting out these urgent, high-level alerts. These weren't just simple warnings, they were basically a signal for the entire kingdom to brace for impact.
Now, what's really telling here is how this table lays out the sheer geography of the threat. Over on the left, you've got the provinces under a red alert. We're talking extreme risk for places like Chefchaouen and Tétouan. And then on the right, you see this much wider net of regions under an orange alert. So this wasn't some localized event. It was a threat to the whole nation.
So why all the severe alerts? Well, the answer is in the raw power of the storm itself. The forecasts were, frankly, terrifying, and they were all based on some pretty incredible meteorological data.
First, let's talk about the rain. Forecasters were predicting up to 150 millimeters in the areas that were going to get hit the hardest. That is a staggering amount of water coming down in a super short time, and it was often mixed with hail. It was just way too much for any drainage system, natural or man-made, to handle.
Then there was the wind. I mean, just imagine gusts hitting 100 kilometers per hour. That's serious gale force wind, with enough power to tear down power lines and do major damage to buildings all across the north and the Rif regions.
And, as if that wasn't bad enough, a nasty cold snap decided to ride in with the storm. In the mountainous areas, places like Ouarzazate, temperatures were expected to just plummet to -6 degrees Celsius. So picture this, you're dealing with a flood, you've lost power, and now you have to face this brutal, freezing cold.
So the key takeaway here is that this was a multi-pronged attack. It wasn't just the rain. It was this perfect storm of torrential downpours, incredibly destructive winds, and, to top it all off, heavy snow in the mountains, up to 60 centimeters of it. It just created layer after layer of dangerous conditions.
Okay, let's shift gears from the weather stats to the reality on the ground, because all those numbers, they very quickly translated into a devastating human cost, as rivers and wadis, which are these riverbeds that are usually dry, just started to violently overflow.
I don't think anything captures that feeling of complete helplessness like this quote right here. When the Lucos River just burst its banks, officials described the situation as water coming in from every corner. It just paints this terrifying picture of a city completely submerged, with absolutely nowhere to go.
And this really shows the domino effect of a disaster like this. It wasn't just the flooding. You had massive power and water outages. Entire villages, especially around Taounate, were totally cut off from the rest of the world. Authorities were sending out desperate warnings about flash floods, and travel in the mountains became pretty much impossible. The whole country was just grinding to a halt.
The response, of course, had to be just as massive as the storm itself. It was a true all-out effort, starting with those huge evacuations we talked about. But things got so bad that King Mohammed VI himself actually ordered the military to get involved, deploying troops to help with rescues and to clear essential roads.
But this is where the story of Storm Leonardo takes a completely unexpected turn. After all the chaos, all the destruction, the aftermath wasn't just about picking up the pieces. It was about facing this really strange and powerful paradox.
Just look at this comparison. On the left, you have the undeniable tragedy, catastrophic floods, people forced from their homes, shattered infrastructure. But then, look at the right side, the other side of the coin. The very same rain that caused all this devastation was also filling the country's dams, raising water levels, and incredibly offering a potential end to years of a crippling drought.
So that's really the heart of it, isn't it? A single weather event delivered two completely opposite results at the exact same time. It was a humanitarian disaster, and it was also a form of desperately needed environmental relief. A true paradox.
And this really leaves us with a huge challenge, especially as our world keeps warming. When a single storm can bring both total ruin and life-saving renewal, it forces us to ask a really tough question. How in the world do we prepare for a future where the disaster and the relief might just arrive in the very same breath?